Hello, good evening. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I may answer your questions. Now, I have a great topic for you today, and it's going to be applying for the green card without the spouse who is mistreating you. And yes, you can go through this process even if you have already filed with your spouse, but that spouse is threatening to cancel, or they have canceled and they're mistreating you at the same time. If you're going through a situation like this, I want to tell you more because I want you to understand you have options. It's not over for you. You can still go ahead and apply for your own work permit. And if you have your work permit already, you can renew your work permit and you can continue with your adjustment of status process on your own through the Vawa process. So this is based on mistreatment by your US citizen or legal permanent resident spouse. So if you have a spouse who is, if that spouse is verbally mistreating you, if they are mentally abusing you or mistreating you, if they're cruel to you, if they're intentionally cruel to you, if they're vindictive towards you, if they have been manipulating you, controlling you, if they have been telling you that you need them, so you better do what you have to do so that they can continue applying for you, that's blackmail. They're not allowed to do that. You could apply for your own form of relief. Nobody is supposed to be blackmailing you based on your immigration status or based on based on a relationship with a U.S. citizen. So if your U.S. citizen spouse is then saying you need to do what they say or they will report you to ICE, they'll get you deported, they'll go ahead and cancel the papers, that's abusive. They should not be doing that. It's not their right. You have rights too. And this process is where you can empower yourself, enforce your own right to be able to gain status based on that mistreatment by your spouse. So what does this process look like? Now, once we have determined that you qualify, this is where the consultation is very important. Chilibu, I agree with you. That is facts. Nobody's supposed to be dragging you through the mud like that. So thank you for that support and thanks for reaffirming that. Now, what does this process look like? After we do the consultation and I listen to what you've been through, we confirm you qualify, we get started right away. Now, once we gather your evidence, and I want to take a minute to note what evidence looks like. Evidence is any believable evidence. We help our clients walk through this process. We hold their hands, we do the heavy lifting, we do the brainstorming to help them to figure out what appropriate evidence is needed here. Don't worry. Right now, all I want you to know is if you're going through this situation, give me a call, schedule that consultation. We can help you with the rest. Don't worry about, well, it's verbal. They, called me names, but I have no evidence of that. Don't worry about that. We work with you to put your statement together so that the immigration officer can accept that as evidence and evaluate what you've been through based on your statement. Now, the statement isn't just any statement. You do have to present it in a detailed, consistent way so that the officer can accept it as evidence. But once they do, at that point, they can make a determination based on that credible evidence, which includes your statement. So don't worry about, the fact that you can't prove it. You can with credible evidence, and we will help you to get through the credible evidence aspect of this. The important thing is, if you're going through this, give us a call. We can help you. Now, once we have determined that you qualify, we get started right away to prepare your application. Once we get everything prepared, we go ahead and we submit it. Once we submit it, you will go through the biometrics. If your fingerprints are already on file, then they may send you a reuse notice. Now, after you have been issued you've attended your biometrics interview, you will get what's called a Prima Facie notice or a request for evidence. If they have additional questions, we address those questions to be able to help them to make a determination. If they have everything they need, which most times they do, they will go ahead and they will give you what's called a Prima Facie determination letter. The Prima Facie determination letter is sort of a pre-approval. So it's saying that based on everything that you've presented, if it's all true, they would approve your application, but they do have to pass it on to an officer who's going to go through it with more thoroughly and make a final decision. In the meantime, depending on what state you're in, you may be able to get public benefits based on that Prima Facie determination letter. So that Prima Facie determination letter can be a lifeline for some people to get the benefits they need that can bring them through until they can get their work permit and they can get on their feet. Now, once that is complete, right, you get the Prima Facie determination letter. Now you're waiting for a final decision. The next is you will get your work permit. My client was just approved for their work permit today, and that is 6 months of the day that we applied. So 6 months of the day that we applied, we have received their work permit and their travel document. Yes, you do get a travel document if you apply, and we apply for each of our clients. Of course, whether it's advisable that you travel with the travel document outside of the country is really based on a case by case basis. Just because some individuals, you may have other violations in your background, we want to make sure you're safe. Maybe we'll recommend you don't travel. But most of my clients are able to travel. And some clients, sadly, they have children that are outside of the United States. They have parents and other relatives who are outside of the United States. And this this travel document, so we apply with it using the I-131 form. It gives them the ability to travel outside of the United States and to come back to the United States after they have left the country and went out of the country temporarily. So it is one of those other forms of relief. The travel document, the work permit are two types of benefits that you can get while you wait for a final decision. Now, once you get the approval, all being well on that VAWA, it means that you can then get your work permit through what's called deferred action for a number of years, and also go on to the green card process. And that's where you can get permanent residence. If at the time that we apply for VAWA, if it's based on a spouse relationship right now, we submit the adjustment of status interview. So as soon as the VAWA is approved, it moves on to the green card process. But during that process, you do get your work permit and your travel document. So that often gives my clients reassurance and gives them some comfort while they're waiting for the process to be completed. Right now, work permits are 2-year work permits, and that's meant to hold you over for the entire process, because the VAWA process can take 2 to 2.5 years to be completed. Now, you can apply for this form of relief if you're out of status, if you've crossed the border without permission, even in the case that you have had violations yourself. So here's a very common scenario. The abuser, the abusive spouse, especially when there is physical violence, even though physical violence isn't required to apply for this, it could be where you're verbally abused. But if there's physical violence, I have seen multiple of my clients, they come to me and they say they were arrested because the abuser claimed that they were the ones that abused them. And in that case, guess what? Once we can show that the arrest was tied to the overall abuse, they will not require a waiver. And even in the case that they don't see a connection, there's no connection. Say you had an unrelated arrest, an arrest or a conviction that is totally unrelated to the abuse or mistreatment, then there are waivers that are available to help you to get forgiveness for any violations that may make you inadmissible. Not every arrest, not every violation is going to render you inadmissible. So keep that one in mind. Now, once you apply and you go through this, another thing I want to let you know is that you could apply for this even if you already applied with your spouse or your parent, if your parent is the one that who is mistreating you, or your US citizen son or daughter, they're the ones that are mistreating you, because this is not just limited to the spousal relationship. If they are abusing you and you are in the middle of a process with them, they have filed papers for you, and they are threatening you, they're threatening to cancel. And in some cases, my clients, they have already canceled it. Some of my clients, it goes as far as them going to the interview and they mess up the interview purposely to sabotage my client. If you've been through a situation like this, just know that this is still an option for you, right? Because there's no limit on when you can apply for this. There is, of course, a time limit if you've been divorced for more than 2 years. So even after divorce, even if you're already divorced and it's been less than 2 years, you can still apply for this. So keep that in mind. So in summary, if you're going in the middle of your process right now, if you're denied your process, this is an option for you if this spouse or this parent or this child who's 21 and over was mistreating you. You can apply for this even if out of status, even if you've overstayed your visa, even if you've crossed the border without permission, even if you've had past immigration violations. There are ways to apply for this. Even if you may have had past arrest or conviction, you can apply for this. This does lead directly to your green card, and you are able to apply for US citizenship after 3 years, after you've been approved and you've gotten your permanent residence. 3 years, that is a shorter time than the usual 5 years. So it is a very important form of relief that I want you to know. It's very flexible for those who are being mistreated, you're being abused, you're being used by a spouse, you're being extorted, even financial abuse counts here. If there's verbal abuse, if they're calling you names, if they're manipulating you, if they're jealous, if they're controlling, if they are, isolating you from friends and family, if they're threatening to get you deported or send you back home, this is for you. So all you have to do now, I've told you who may very well and who is likely to qualify. You need to just take the steps to call, schedule an appointment, and we can get started to make sure that you are taken care of and that you can find stability, empowerment, and a future here in the United States without that fear, without that uncertainty, and without the negativity, the toxicity from that spouse or that parent or that son or daughter. So go ahead, give us a call. I'm going to go ahead and put the website and the phone number in the comments. I'm under the immigration attorney. It's stlawoffice.com. And then the number is 561-405-4889. So go ahead, give us a call right now. Scheduling coordinators are available. Just scroll through the comments. you'll see the immigration lawyer. So immigration lawyer Tharpe, you will see that name there. Go ahead, schedule the call, schedule the consultation, and we will get started right away. Now, I am also on Instagram at The Immigration Attorney. You can also go there and you can click on the link in the bio. You'll have everything you need to be able to schedule that consultation on your own. There is, if you go to the website, there's the ability to schedule your own appointment or call if you need help, fill out the forms, do online chat, and you'll be able to get through there. Now, Chris, thanks so much for that. I am going to keep going, keep helping. That's what I'm here for. Thanks for all the love and the likes and the shares. And now your questions. I'm going to go through these questions with you. So let us get started. I am getting a divorce and my wife filed for my daughter. When the divorce is over, do I have to refile? So if you're getting the divorce, now if you're getting a divorce and your wife, so once you're divorced, and of course if your wife, you're not looking forward to a life together, your wife turned ex-wife can't file for you. Do you have to refile? It's going to depend on who's going to be your petitioner. So schedule that consultation and we can talk more about your options. Can I get married to a person in green card process on F1 visit? So the F1 visit, so if you are a student on an F1 visa, there is the ability to get married and go through the green card process, maybe even through adjustment of status. But I cannot advise you specifically just because I don't know I have no idea what your facts and circumstances are. It's going to be very important for me to ask you follow-up questions. So you said F1 visit. Is this a student visa? How long do you have until your visa expires? Your spouse, can I get married to a person in green card process? There may be consequences for this person who's applying in the green card process, so it may not be okay. So, this is going to be very important to schedule that consultation to make sure you get the information you need. Don't take it lightly because getting married can definitely change things. I came on a C1D in USA 1 year ago. I heard C1D visa is barred from applying for adjustment of status. So if you came on a crewman's visa, that is correct. Adjustment of status is not permitted. Now, while I don't know what your facts and circumstances are, if you came in as a crewman, and based on that crewman's visa, you will definitely be barred from adjustment of status. So you should make sure you get legal advice about how to proceed because your case may be a lot more complex if it's a crewman's visa. You can always call, schedule an appointment. I'm going to go ahead and put my phone number in the comments. So you can give us a call and schedule that appointment right away so we can advise you further about your options. And I'm also going to put the website. On the website, if you go to the Contact Us page, you can apply, you can go ahead and submit go through the form and schedule your own appointment. Thanks for the share, appreciate it. All right, let's keep going. Does Vawa get denied if you came in and out and stayed? So now if you came in and then out and then you stayed, so I'm thinking if you left the country, so you came here and then you stayed outside of the country, it may not be denied on that basis, but I would have to know more about what happened. You may now you may have triggered unlawful presence, just depending on when did you come in, how long did you come in, then you went out and then stayed out of the US. There may be some inadmissibility issues and you may require a waiver. And then there are other questions to ask about the residency requirement. Were you living with the person that was mistreating you, and so forth. So there are a number of follow-up questions that I would have to ask. Go ahead, schedule, let's talk. The Vawa petition, it does allow for you to apply while being outside of the United States, but you still do need to meet certain requirements. And that's what the evaluation would have to do. And we'd also have to determine whether you'd need a waiver. So does Vawa get denied if you came in, I think that's 2000, is that 2000? Came in, I see 200, but I'm thinking that's 2000. So when you came in, you could have come in 20 years ago. If you meet the requirements, and that's where it's going to be very important to schedule the appointment and do the evaluation. It doesn't matter how long you've been here, but what does matter is what were the immigration violations, and do you meet the other requirements? So I was divorced. He have a military parole in place pending for a year. Can my new spouse sponsor me? So now this is more, I would have to figure out, first of all, how did you get the military parole in place? And it sounds like there has not been a decision on that parole in place yet. Now, if you have a military parole in place based on your previous spouse, and now you have a new spouse, then you definitely I would need to evaluate the circumstances here, especially if it's pending and there's no decision. So if it's pending based on a previous spouse and now you have a new spouse, there may be an issue there. So go ahead, schedule an appointment, and let's talk. What year is the U.S. Embassy and NVC currently working on? It's going to depend on the category that you're in. It could take over a year right now to get interviews. I have 3 Prima Facie. How long does it take? So right now we're seeing anywhere from 2 years to 2.5 years, unfortunately. And some people are on the outliers, meaning it goes over even 2 years. Some people are getting it in a shorter time. So, but the average is 2 to 2.5 years. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Can you get married on a visitor's visa? Tessa, it may be possible. I have had clients who they have gotten married on the visitor's visa in the United States, but I wouldn't be able to advise you specifically. I definitely wouldn't advise you to go and get married on a visitor's visa until I understand all the facts involved, because in some cases it may not come with any consequences. In other cases, it may not be advisable, but it's going to depend on your circumstances. After a DWI, how long do I have to wait to become a US citizen? So, this is where it's very important to schedule a consultation, because one DWI may not necessarily even stop you from getting US citizenship. Now, it's going to depend on how many DWIs did you have. There is definitely going to have to be a very, very good argument to show that you meet good moral characters. And it's going to be important to evaluate your entire background to determine whether there are other issues that's going to prevent them from finding good moral character. But this is if it is going to prevent you, if based on all the totality of the circumstances, looking at your background, if this may be your 3rd DWI, then if you're going to wait for some time, it's usually you're going to have to wait for the statutory period to pass. The statutory period is going to be roughly 5 years if you had to apply for your permanent residence in 5 years. If it's 3 years, then you would have to wait for those 3 years to pass. So it's gonna depend. Do you practice in Georgia? Great question. I represent my clients in all 50 states and around the globe. As a U.S. immigration attorney, we are allowed to represent clients in all of the United States because it's a federal practice. We are in the practice of filing and representing our clients before USCIS offices, before the embassies all over the world, before immigration courts all over the country. I fly all over the country. I travel all over the country. I travel all over the state to represent my clients. So it is not anything new. It is totally permissible. And yes, I do represent clients in Georgia as long as it's a U.S. immigration issue. What do you need to file for someone living overseas? What would the lawyer need from your spouse? So that's a question that's definitely going to require representation, just because when I work with my clients, I get to know my clients. And so I wouldn't be able to there is one thing it's important to understand, and I think it's important to understand this to successfully get through the process, the green card process, is not there's no one size fits all. You must be able to tell the story of your marriage, your spouse's background, your background. So it's not a case where you can look at, oh, that couple successfully got through the process, so I'm going to just do exactly what they do, even though that couple may have a completely different lifestyle from yours. So it's going to depend, the documents, the evidence, it's going to depend. So go ahead, call, schedule, and we'll talk and then get started. Does Vawa get denied if you came in 2000 and came back in 2002 and stayed? So it would not necessarily get denied, but it's going to depend. If you came in 2000, then you left, came back, there may have been the permanent bar may have been triggered, but the permanent bar does not mean you can't get VAWA. Now, there are still ways to be able to get VAWA even under circumstances like this. So go ahead, schedule the consultation, and we can talk about the circumstances involved, and then I can determine whether you fit the criteria to still get VAWA based on leaving and then coming back. It is still very, very possible. Hi, good day. Can you tell me what form I submit for my 7-year-old son that is here in the US? So Andrea, I don't talk about forms and I don't give specific legal advice. So that's where the consultation is going to be very important. All right. How long will it take to get a work permit after filing for VAWA? So I have seen I've seen it in as little as 4 months. I just got one of the work permits today within 6 months. So the average time I'm seeing right now is 6 to 8 months. What year is the U.S. Embassy and NVC working on? So it really depends. Remember, there are hundreds, if not thousands of embassies around the world, and each embassy functions differently based on different priorities, based on what type of petition. So there is no one quick answer I can give here. What I can say is based on information I've gotten, a summary of information that I have observed, it is taking anywhere from 3 months to even over a year to get that interview after the NVC has confirmed that it is that you have been documentarily qualified. Can you apply for yourself if you don't have anyone to sponsor you? There are ways. So you have the National Interest Waiver, Extraordinary Ability Green Card, VAWA. This is the one I just talked about. If your spouse is refusing to apply for you and they're mistreating you, this would be a way. You can also apply based on other humanitarian basis. So if you apply for asylum, if that is a situation where you're in fear of your returning to your country and you're granted asylum, if you're the victim of trafficking or the victim of certain crimes and you have the URT visa, those could be ways as well. Married in another country, never filed in the state, relationship didn't work. Is that a legal marriage? Yes. So no, if it's legally recognized in another country, then it is a marriage, a legal marriage in the United States, and the USCIS will consider it a legal marriage. My I-130 was approved 2 months ago, and my spouse is mistreating me, and she is filing for divorce. Will that affect my next step? That could very well, Pato. That's where you should schedule that consultation. Let's talk more about this situation. You do have a solution where you can continue on track, but it's going to depend on what your situation is. Where are you? To determine whether you can go ahead and file for adjustment of status, or whether you can file, if you're outside of the US, whether you can file that petition outside of the US. All right, great questions. How long does it take to get a work permit after VAWA application? I would say in as little as 4 months. I'm seeing an average of 6 to 8 months. Thanks, Fabia, for sharing. Do I need to stay married to apply for VAWA? Now, that is going to depend. No, I would say generally no. Once I confirm that my clients qualify for VAWA, I tell them this: be safe, right? If being safe means to get out of the situation, get out of the marriage, move out of the home, to be separated, to ensure their safety and well-being, do it. When you're separated, you can still go ahead and file for this. Actually, guess what? You can file for this up to 2 years after you have divorced that spouse who mistreated you. So it is, in summary, do you have to stay with them? No, but you do have to be aware that there is a deadline. If you do get divorced, you have up to 2 years to file for this form of relief. But the number one priority is that you are safe. If you have to leave them, do that. One recommendation is, if you can, make sure you document everything. Make sure you gather, the documents that maybe if you do have access. A lot of my clients don't have access, and if it's going to be a safety hazard for you, don't go out of your way trying to gain access to documents. But if you do have any documents, if you have text messages or videos, make sure you put them in a safe place to document the mistreatment, as well as your spouse's or your parent or your son or daughter's status, so we can use that in the process. All right, great questions. I'm a victim, been together for 4 years and married for a year, was abused, fresh marriage. So go ahead, schedule that consultation, Eric. Now, unfortunately, here's the issue. If you remarry, you don't qualify for VAWA anymore. So now that's a very important point to make. If you stay, do you have to stay married to that person? No. But should you be getting, if you plan to apply for VAWA, should you be getting remarried? No. Remarriage disqualifies you from applying for this form of relief. So make sure you take note of that. I have a friend who was extorted by her now ex-husband and his friend. Oh my gosh, that's horrific. If that is the case, your friend may qualify, not may, extortion definitely qualifies them for VAWA. I would have to do an evaluation to make sure that that applies to them, but extortion, no, that's abuse. That's abuse. Doesn't matter that she wasn't beaten, doesn't matter it wasn't physical. If there's any type of cruelty, any type of targeting, threats, not even threats of physical harm, but other types of threats, like I'm going to get you sent home, I'm going to, if you don't do this, I'm going to call ICE on you. Those are behaviors against you that qualify you. All right, great questions. I'm going to try to go through as quickly as possible. Now, I am also going to be on the immigration attorney. So make sure that if I don't get to your questions, jump over to the immigration attorney on Instagram, where I can go ahead and continue answering your questions. I'm going to go live there as well. Can you get married on a visitor's visa? Get that consultation so we can talk more. I have had clients that they've gotten married while they were here on a visa, and got their green card in record time. But whether that's advisable for you is going to be dependent on your facts. Marriage-based interview was 55 days ago, approved verbally, but no card so far. So if that's the case, you should contact them directly to find out what's going on. Can you please repeat what they're eligible for? So wife material is Vawa. That's what I'm talking about today. You can go ahead and give them my information, share this live, share one of my videos with them. I talk about Vawa throughout my videos, so you can always follow me, join me, and look at those videos too to learn more about it. Does Vawa get denied if you came in 2000, came back? That's a complex topic. It may not be necessarily denied, but you need to get a consultation. Can I go ahead and get my divorce before I file Vawa? London, get legal representation and legal advice. Remember, the information I'm giving you is not personalized legal advice. So I don't act on any information here until you get legal advice about what your next step should be. But what I can tell you is be safe. And if divorce means that you can be safe, do that. But once you get divorced, you will need to make sure you apply for VAWA up to 2 years after the divorce. If you don't, you lose the opportunity to apply. Now I'm going to head on over to Instagram. I am the immigration attorney on Instagram. Join me there so we can continue to have this conversation. I will be there in a minute, so join me so we can continue talking. If not, I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube and TikTok. Thanks so much for the love. Thank you so much for all these great questions. I will be back to continue to answer questions and talk about this topic some more. So join me again. Have a great one, everyone. And remember, if you need help, go ahead, call, schedule. My number is 561-405-4889. You can also go to Instagram and you can click on the link and you'll get everything you need to get started. Have a good one. Bye-bye.